We want completely different destinations. When back in the day, we used to just argue about what was the best way to get to the same destination. But now we want to go in different places altogether. So, what do you think, man? Leave a comment below. Leave a comment below if you got some insight. You got something you want to add to that part of the conversation. All right. All right. All right. I got another video I'm going to share. And this is about the military and how the military, as much as people love the military, right? As much as people will advocate for the troops and just that lifestyle, like a lot of people will advocate that, like, yo, it's a good idea for you to join the military and for you to get involved in that manner and for you, you to fight for your country and things like that. But like, think about the systems that are in the military, right? Think about how we take care of our soldiers while they're in the military. Because remember, we don't necessarily take care of all our soldiers when they get out of the military, but when they're in the military, like we take care of them a certain way. But then the way we take care of our military is not how we want everyone in the whole country to be taken care of, right? And for whatever reason it is, but let's take a look at this. I don't know if anybody's ever looked at it this way, but this is very telling, right? All right, so let me share the screen here. Let me share the screen. And this is why, like, certain, you understand certain groups don't join the military because it doesn't match their worldview. All right, so here it goes. It says a veteran said the U.S. offers soldiers socialism to go abroad to defend capitalism. Right, so we live in a capitalistic society. Socialism, I don't think people really know what socialism is. I'm not here necessarily to advocate for socialism, but when we think about the way we take care of our soldiers, that don't match how we take care of even our less fortunate here in the States. All right, so let's take a look here.
From well-established, healthy families don't join the military. Poverty is the number one recruiting tool of the military. They specifically target poor, low-income neighborhoods for a reason. The reason that we don't have access to socialized healthcare, subsidized housing, and all of these other things that the military offers is because that is their selling tool to people to say, hey, you may not be eating 3 meals a day while you're in your rural hometown and in your school, but guess what? Join the military and you're gonna have access to 3 meals a day, housing, healthcare, of steady paychecks. I saw a veteran that said America offers soldiers socialism to go abroad and defend capitalism because the things that this country will never offer to them, just as normal civilians, is access to subsidized housing, healthcare, steady paychecks. And then majority of the time, the people who are in the military or come out of the military tend to vote right-wing Republican. They vote against their own interests when they have directly benefited from socialism. You are a good parent and you teach your children values and you encourage them to go to college and you give them a nice, healthy environment. Their first thought is not going to be, let me go join the military. You know who is going to think that they want to go straight into the military? People who come from poverty, children who come from broken homes, children who come from parents who don't give a shit about them, about their education, people who feel like they have always been put down because they are made to believe that they are not a part of anything. And then when you look at the type of people who come into the military and out of the military, this completely makes sense. Children who come from well-established, healthy families don't join the military.
Yeah, that was our first point. Then it got cut off the first time we ran through it. But yeah, think about that, man. Think about that. Think about everything that we do for our soldiers, which is, I don't think, is not deserved. But think about everything that we do for our soldiers and the way we live, and yeah, they do get free housing when they're there. They are getting free food. They make a little. They don't make a lot of money, whatever, but they make enough money because since they don't have to worry about basic needs, which is like food and shelter. They make money that they can kind of stack up whatever and save, and then when they get out, they have opportunities for free reduced education. They have preference when it comes to jobs, right? They also get definitely very great loans at extremely low interest rates, if any interest rates, when it comes to like getting like a house. So they get a certain level if you file for VA benefits, right? You get a certain level of health care that's not necessarily provided to everybody. Now, a lot of people will argue about the VA and like those healthcare benefits, but like you get access to that type of stuff, that healthcare that we talking about, that universal free healthcare. You get access to that when you are in the military, but like we almost would never do that for our regular citizens, right? Like universal basic income, right? That would be like what soldiers are making while they're on base. We would never do that. We call that socialism. You know, we would never provide mass wide like housing for people that don't have that can't afford to pay to live somewhere. These soldiers, because a lot of them come from nothing, they wouldn't be able to afford to live where they're living. And then they don't have to pay for food, right? So they got all these different services, but like we don't want to feed the homeless. We don't want to house the homeless, right? And then we don't want to give like major discounts and subsidies for higher education, right? But we'll do that for our soldiers. And yes, there is a give and take, and maybe some people would say that other people haven't earned it, but the system that we're defending, what soldiers are defending, is a system that has put people that has made people homeless, that has made people feel that they cannot afford food, it has made people feel like they can't afford higher education and they can't move up, right? But again, you give us some, give us your life, whatever, give us, your time, then you can get all those different things. And it just seems to be a little bit ass backwards. And the fact that, yes, what she said first is like wealthy families, high middle class families, they don't really have kids that are going to the military. Now, if you have a big family and you have a big middle class family or wealthy family, you might have one kid that decides to go because they see some type of advantage in it. Or you might have somebody that already gets a degree and then they go in later, right? But like, yeah, if you're talking about the average person is not middle class though. So I think there is a misnomer there when we talk about middle class, because I think a lot of people assume that they're middle class when they're not. Middle class does not mean average. Middle class is because where the average is and where like middle class income is not necessarily the same. Like where the poverty line and what it means to be homeless is not even the exact same. You know what I mean? So so I think people have this misconception that like oh, the average person is middle class, and it's they're not. The average person is who they're targeting, right? Low income, poor families, and those are the ones. And the thing is, maybe that's something that we preach to our kids, that hey, what I mean, you could help our family get out of this situation, or you could help your future family because you're probably not destined to go. A lot of times when they talk about socioeconomic status, like people don't typically move up to new statuses. They kind of stay where they were born at for the most part. But the military is that stepping stone. But there could be other things in place outside of the military, that's outside of that military industrial complex, that helps people get a leg up. But like we don't want to do that. We like because we think that socialists. We think and then people say use communists and stuff like that. It's not those things, man. But we have the ability, we have the money, we have the resources to take care of all our people, but we would rather not, because the previous topic, we ain't going to the same destination, right? So different destinations, man. So what do you think? What do you think? Leave a comment below. What do you think, man? Is there some truth to that? I know some people that close to me that definitely agree with what this lady was saying. And they can relate. They could definitely relate. All right. Next topic, and then we're gonna give our review or just kind of talk about Black Rabbits a little bit. So, all right. This is something that's kind of developing right now, currently in my city and well, my hometown, the city that I come from. So I'm not from the biggest area, right? But I am from, it's a city, man. Like Pennsylvania got a lot of different cities, and some cities are small. So there's a lot of crime, historically there's a lot of crime in my hometown. And I don't necessarily live I don't live in my hometown anymore, but I'm there often. I work in my hometown though. And I'm in the next city over. And there has been a lot of crime over the years. I think when you're not connected to it anymore, sometimes it can feel like it's less. Sometimes it can feel like it's more because you're just on the outside looking in. You can't fully gauge it, right? So probably a couple months ago, I made a post about flock cameras, right? I made a post about like surveillance and how like that's like an increasing thing in a lot of places where cops are putting up these flock cameras, and a lot of times we look at them like they're they're supposed to be used for like catching like speed and like like for traffic purposes. But the way that they place these things in these different areas, it doesn't make it as if it's for just traffic, right? Like it becomes a thing where police departments are using these cameras, these flock cameras that many times were originally made for traffic. They're using it to solve other crimes. Now, that's cool. Like if it's that's cool if like if we're talking in context, like it's a high speed chase and we're trying to identify the route in which somebody went, whatever. But like just in general, like if we're starting to peer into those cameras and like trying to analyze everybody who's driving and trying to see what they got in their car and this and that, and it's giving like the tip to the local department, or the local department can see it and they can see everything, and then they start pulling people over because they know you have something that maybe you shouldn't have. Now, if you've ever done anything that you weren't supposed to do, anything that could be deemed illegal, right? And there's a lot of things that could be deemed illegal. If you ever done anything like that, you realize that like the cops don't really stop crime, right? They don't really stop things from happening. They don't, because they're unaware of things happening. So like if you're cool with the police being aware of everything, then you are for a police state, for example. Like you're cool with Big Brother. You're cool with that. Like you're fine giving up your freedom, your privacy, your civil liberties. You're okay with it if you think that's the way to go. But a lot of people feel that like no, that's an infringement. Like it's like there's a way that people got to do things. Police, the way they solve and figure out things are through witnesses, and now it's through surveillance. But it's like, to what extent? If I'm not hurting anybody, why does it? Why can't I do certain things that I want to do? Now it makes it sound like I'm arguing for criminality, but I'm not. I'm just saying like some of these things, depending on who's in charge of these things, who has access to these things, some people are some people are actively malicious against other people, but some people, they it might be like a more implicit and unintentional consequence that's gonna harm people and they don't realize it.